Hey guys, I'm Dane with CVF Offroad. Today we're going to be installing the Legion Series bumper on the front of this 2020 and 2023 Chevy Silverado 2500 or 3500 pickup. The first thing we need to do is remove 3 screws from the inner fender and then remove some of the clips in the front fender molding. So let's get started. Now that those 3 screws have been removed, we can use a special tool like this to remove some of the clips behind the fender molding. Or with a little bit of finger pressure, you can probably get it to pull right away. Slowly work our way up. Once the first 3 have been removed, we can access a 7mm screw, and then we'll go ahead and take that guy loose. We can now do the same process on the other side. Now that the 7mm screw has been removed from both sides on the valance, we can go ahead and remove it. I like to put a little downward force on this corner by the headlight and then pull away from the truck. It should pop right off, and we can work our way over to the other side. Then we'll repeat the same process, push down, pull away. Now we can remove the valance. The valance off, the next thing we can do is go ahead and open the hood. We're going to do that to remove the radiator cover. To remove the cover, we'll start by removing the 2 screws on the hood latch and then removing all the little body clips on top of the cover. Now that all the pins are removed, we can go ahead and slide off the hood latch and then lift up the cover. With the cover removed, that'll expose the 4 bolts that hold on the top of the grill. We'll remove those next. With the last screw removed from the top of the grill, there's going to be 2 more screws that hold the grill on, one on each corner by the headlight and in the same spot on the driver's side. With the 6 bolts removed from the grill, the only thing left holding in place are going to be the clips. So we'll start on the passenger side. There's a cable we'll need to remove from behind the passenger side grill that is for the front camera. So start by grabbing a hold of the grill, with firm pressure, pull away. That'll expose the cable. Go ahead and remove that guy. And we can start slowly pulling our way around over to the driver's side. With the grill removed, we can go ahead and remove the bumper electrical harness connector. Give that a squeeze. Pulls right off. And there's one more plug on the passenger side. Now we can start working on actually removing the bumper. First thing we'll do is remove the side supports. There's 2 bolts, 15mm on driver's side, and 2 bolts, 15mm also on the passenger side. There are 4 more bolts left holding the bumper on, 1 on each side high, and then there's going to be 1 down below it. It's a little bit harder to access. You'll want to use a long extension to access it on each side. Once those 4 bolts are removed, we'll take the bumper off. All the mounting bolts removed, and we can now start to slide the bumper off of its supports. We've got a few things to remove now that the bumper's off. We'll start with this plastic air deflector, and then we'll move on to the front brackets here for our bumper. So 7mm bolts, the air deflector, Now we can move right into removing our factory bumper brackets. Move to this side now. The last thing to remove will be the factory tow hooks after the bumper brackets have been removed. We can go ahead and put our grill back on now that everything's off the front end of this truck. We'll start by pressing the center clips from the grill onto the front of the truck here and then working our way outside. Don't forget to reinstall your plug for your front camera if you have one. Go ahead and install the 6 bolts that finish the attachment of the grill. Now that the grill's on and secure, we can go ahead and put the top cover back on. We'll line up all the holes in the core support. We can reinstall all those push pins. Last thing to do will be reinstall the hood latch. Now the latch is installed, we can go ahead and install the valance next. This is a good time to grab a friend. You can do it by yourself, but it does get a little tricky. If you're by yourself, it's easiest to start from one side, work your way around to the other. Slowly clip everything into place. We'll set this guy in place for now, and then we'll press all the pins back on the front of the valance. Now that will help line up in front of the valance here. Just take your time. And that completes the valance. Now that our valance is back on, we can reattach the screw on the inner fender molding for the valance, and then press all these pins back in place for the fender molding. The last thing we have to do here is install the 3 factory screws that attach the inner fender liner. Now that the front end of the truck is back on, we can go ahead and remove the wiring harness for the engine block heater, and then also the wiring harness for your parking sensors. If you don't have those, we can go ahead and skip this step. We'll start with the engine block harness. We just need to unclip these clips here, and then we'll go ahead and start removing this inner panel on both sides for the harness for the parking sensors. Now we will repeat the same process on this side. Now the covers, parking sensors have been removed. You can go ahead and cut the clips for the wiring harness and remove it from the bumper. Now we can start the installation of our new bumper. We'll go ahead and start with the bumper brackets. We'll be reusing the OEM hardware and the OEM bolt holes. And we will torque all these tight at this time. We will repeat the process on the driver's side. This truck is not going to get a winch, but if you're going to install a winch, you'd be using this bracket here. You'll reuse the OEM bolts in those locations. The winch bracket will go over top of our bumper brackets. And then the inside frame rail mounts will go inside of the frame rail on each side and align with the tow hook holes. I'll show you how that goes into place. Since we will not be using a winch today, we'll go ahead and finish up the installation of these brackets by installing the bolts that go through the frame rail for the old tow hooks, and we'll secure those down. If you were using the winch bracket, of course those bolts will just go right through and sandwich everything together. And once again, we will repeat the same process on the other side. As you may have noticed when we were taking the front end of this truck off, that we did not have one of these shutter systems for the cooling system that would normally mount in this location. If you do have one of these shutter systems, now would be the time that you would reinstall it. You'll use the 4 open square tabs here, and then reuse the little spring clips that are in the factory bumper brackets. Give them a little squeeze. They pop right out, like so. You can press them right back in place. Once you press in all 4, you can then reattach your shutter system. Now we're ready to start assembling the bumper. We'll start bringing this to life by installing our side plates first. Now that all 4 bolts have been tightened, we can go ahead and install the clip for our parking sensor. Next side. The side plates are installed. We'll go ahead and roll our bumper over. Once we do, we can go ahead and lay in our harness. Remember, the plug is on the passenger side. With the wiring harness laid in place, we can go ahead and install our parking sensors. You're going to want to make sure that the inside of the plug is facing towards the inside of the bumper. If it doesn't snap into place easily, the plastic connector is 180 degrees out. Push it back out, spin it back. If the connector is facing this way, it'll contact the bracket. Same thing on this side, clip them into place. And now we can start to tie back the parking light part of the harness and our main harness to the inside bumper. We'll use the little sticky pads that were included with the kit here. Stick one down on the inside here. Stick another down on the inside here. And zip tie these in place, even on both sides. Now we can move into our engine block heater. and we will secure this cord later. Now we're ready to install the bumper. Go ahead and install one of these strips on the lower slot for each side. And grab a buddy. We have all 8 nuts tightened down just enough to where the bumper will still move up and down, side to side. So now we'll work on getting the gap where we want it. Within an 1/8 inch of the grill to the bumper, it is pretty sufficient. And make sure you stay centered. Once you have it where you like it, you can start locking those bolts down. So I'll get my socket started on one bolt, center, where it looks good. And then I'll lift into place. Snug them down. Now I'll go to the other side. We'll repeat the same process. Once you're happy with the gaps, wash them all down. Now that the bumper bolts are tight, we'll go ahead and install the front plate. Now we can go ahead and install our clips for our parking sensors. Once those are installed, we can put the parking sensors into it. And now we can reattach the parking sensors on the passenger side. Now we can reattach the block heater and reconnect to the frame. We'll use one of the stickies to attach our block heater harness and secure the harness with the zip strip. This bumper is going to get one of our bull bars installed, so we're going to go ahead and set that on now. Take your time with this guy so you don't scratch your truck. And then I like to install one bolt on each side. Take a washer and lock nut here, get him finger tight. Once the first bolt is tight, we'll finish up the bolt on the other corner, get him tight, and then we can install the last 6 bolts. Once the factory harness has been reconnected for the bumper, you can go ahead and trim this inner fender liner to your liking so it's out of the way. That's going to wrap up the bumper installation on this pickup. We're going to finish it off with these flush mount lights. And then blank inserts for the center. We also have flush mount inserts for lights. We have pod lights inserts as well. Bar lights for the front, multiple color options, all available on CVFoffroad.com. If you have any questions, give us a call, shoot us an email. Thanks for watching.